Hey guys, it's Kim back again with another weekly cross-stitching update. Today is the 22nd of February 2021. This is video number 109. And I had a good week of working on all full coverage, worked on 4 different pieces. So let's get to it and show you some progress. As a side note, first you will see I donated blood today, so I still have a bandage on my arm, and I have scratches all over my hand. So I'm fine. If you want to know more about it, stick after stitching updates. We'll talk about life updates. So first thing I worked on was Beauty and the Beast 2017 by Tilton Crafts, and I got a page finish on this one. I think I'm now at about 56.6% done. This is on 25 count, easy count, 2/1 continental 10 stitch. So there's the whole piece so far. You might be able to hear Hopper yelling. So there's the page that I finished. I also completed several more colors of the bright yellows because the rest of her dress is kind of in the shadows, so the same bright yellows aren't used. So there's my page finish on that one. 2 more pages to go on this one for my goal this year. And then I was going to work on Sunday Delight by Randall Spangler for Wednesday and Thursday, but then I remembered that Thursday was Julie from Stitching at the Cabin's birthday, and I had told her earlier that I would work on her favorite whip of mine on her birthday. So Wednesday and Thursday, instead of Sunday Delight by Randall Spangler, I worked on Trick or Treat by Randall Spangler. So I am again down here in the pumpkins and this cobblestone fence post. And this is the one where I did all the black extreme cross country first. And now I'm filling in the pages. So for Wednesday and Thursday, I hope you can hear that. He's just yelling his head off. I had the dishwasher going and I went into a closet that always makes him yell. I don't know why that one particular closet. But 2,210 stitches over those 2 days. So I filled in the pumpkins and I started on the grays in that cobblestone fence post. So early, like in January, I finished this partial page, and so now I'm working those 2 full pages together. And here's the whole thing as it sits on the scroll frame. I'm not going to take it apart right now. Maybe after I finish those 2 pages. So 2,210 stitches on that one. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday was Big Strides weekend in Full Coverage Fanatics. This was a non-counting event to work on your largest full coverage piece. And for me, that is Supersized Color Expansion Museum Shelf by Amy Stewart. I have all this section done, and I was starting this page right here. So again, I am not stitching the outer gold frame. So I have a partial page row that's about 25 to 30 stitches, and I'm working the full page above it at the same time. So we're looking at the page with all the dark greenery and the T-Rex's arms, the rope, and the post here, along with the start of the railing of the stairwell. It's a dark page. There's a lot of black, and I also did 3371 and started on the 938. So even though I had things going on this weekend, Girl Scout cookie booth, and then Loudmouth over there, I still got a good bit done because it was only 3 colors. So there is the entire piece. 3,410 stitches. So I'll show you again. The partial page is only about to here, where that blue mark is. So partial page, and then you can see where the T-Rex's arms are going to be. And then this is going to be all dark greenery and some more of the stones. And where these straight lines are, that's going to be where the other post is for the rope. and where the railing for the stairwell comes down. So we'll just get to see the very side of the stairwell on this page. So there is the entire thing. Again, if you want to know more about my PVC scroll frame, look in the description for links to videos where I actually talk about it. And then my daily piece, Oh Baby, Retired Hate by Gilgash Taylor, that I cropped. I did a lot of green this week. That was my goal, was to fill in all the green. And I got it all done, except for a few little miscellaneous stitches. So, 3,600 tent stitches on it this week for a total this year of 23,900 tent stitches. And I'm using it for Outlander. Oh, that's the other thing. I'm using this in the bookshelf challenge for Like Water for Chocolate. So even though I got 3,400 tent stitches done, I need to do about another 1,000 to finish the book. So I will work on it this week to get another 1,000 tent stitches done. So that's part of my plans this week. On Oh Baby, I'm working Outlander for the bookshelf challenge, and I'm about halfway done. 9,400 tent stitches out of the 17,000 for Outlander. So, all the green, except for a few stitches here and a few stitches here, is all done for this 1.5-page section wide piece. So, and then I also did a few other browns and tans in his muzzle. So you can make your bets to see if I can finish the muzzle in the next week. His neck is right here, so that's why there's no green in that area. His neck comes down. These gray stitches, that's the end of the second column of pages. So there's a partial page row right here, and then where I cropped it, there's like 9 or 10 stitches here. So 1 page, 2 page. So I'll just keep going until I get to about this, just past his muzzle, before I move the Q-snap. So we'll see if I can get that done this week, so I can show you, take it off the Q-snap and show you the full thing, full piece next week. So plans, keep working on Oh Baby, do 1,000 stitches to finish up Like Water for Chocolate in the bookshelf challenge on Museum Shelf. I will do another rule from Halloween Rules by Lizzie Kate. And then we'll see where I go from there. We have another cookie booth this weekend. And I don't know what else is going to happen this week. I forgot. That is it for the stitching content. I have quite a bit of life updates and then a very short Air Force story. So if you're just interested in the stitching content, we'll see you later. Thank you for joining me. Real life updates. I got my second COVID shot on Wednesday. The first 24 hours I was fine. The only symptom I had was muscle soreness from where I got the shot, just like the first one. The evening, the next day, so Thursday evening, I started getting pains in my arm that were like growing pains. So it was joint pain that felt like growing pains. And joint pain is one of the possible side effects of the vaccine. I went to bed with it. Like, it didn't stop me from stitching. I still kept working on, was it Trick or Treat at that point? Still kept working on it. It was just an annoyance. Went to sleep Thursday night. Thursday morning, woke up fine. Sporadically through Friday, I had more joint pain in my arm, in my left leg. And that continued through the weekend, like very sporadically, not very often, and for very short periods of time. Thursday night was the longest. That was a few hours that my arm hurt. After that, it was like half an hour. Just randomly, my arm would hurt, or my leg would hurt, or my right leg hurt at one point yesterday. So it's weird. It doesn't bother me, but I'm mentioning it as just informational purposes. This is something that happened to me. I consider myself lucky. I know that there have been other people who have had full-on flu symptoms for like 24 hours. Again, I got the Pfizer vaccine. I think more side effects have been happening with the Moderna because they have 3 times as much of the vaccine material in the shot. So just food for thought. And then after your first shot, a few weeks after it, they say your immunity is about 53%. And then you get your second shot, and that's what boosts you up to the 95 or so percent immunity that the vaccine claims. So I gave blood today, but I'm not sure if the antibodies will show up yet in my blood. I'll find out here in a few days after they test it. But I mean, giving blood is helping anybody regardless if there's antibodies in it or not. And those antibodies will certainly be present the next time I donate. So if you have been paying attention to the weather in the United States, you know it's been a little wonky. We have not used our snowblower this winter here in North Dakota. Every time it snowed, we've got 2 inches of snow or less. They're forecasting 1 to 3 inches tomorrow. We want snow. It's not even cold anymore. Today it's actually rained because it's above freezing. But we had, in the first part of February, we had temperatures in the ridiculous range with wind chills, -30s to -50s. But I want snow. If it's going to be winter, we want snow. But everybody else in the country is getting the snow instead. So my horse is down in northern Louisiana, just straight like 4 hours east driving distance from Dallas. They got 5 inches of snow on Tuesday, which is the most snow that my friend has ever seen at one time. But then Wednesday, it rained like a freezing rain all day. So then it froze. So you have a solid sheet of ice on top of all the snow, making things very dangerous. The horses did not get turned out for 2 days because you don't want them to slip and fall and hurt themselves. Her arena down there was just one solid sheet of ice on top of all the snow. She was fortunate in that she did not lose power or water. However, I know a lot of people in the Shreveport area who did lose water. They still are without water in Shreveport, and some people lost power. The Shreveport water system went down. I'm not sure if it's because of frozen pipes or because of the shortage of power to run the pumps. But the most concerning thing was that the hospitals in Shreveport all were without water, which is crucial because they all have boiler systems for heat. So they had no heat because they had no water. The National Guard trucked in some water for them. The CNC oil field tanker trucks brought in some water for the hospitals so they would be able to at least have heat for all the patients. So, and like I said, there's people still without water. But everybody's trying to help out their neighbors with what they can. So that's the good news. In terms of horse properties, people that I know of as an acquaintance, there have been several barns that have collapsed. A big covered arena that collapsed because the facilities down there are not built to withstand the weight of 5 inches of snow and a solid sheet of ice on top of that. Someone I know, she has a 6-stall barn, and the roof, like a couple of the trusses going across it, broke, and so the roof collapsed onto the stall walls. No horses injured. One of the horses, like they quickly pulled all the horses out. One of the horses was trapped for a few hours because his stall walls were bearing the majority of the weight of the roof, but they got him out. The big covered arena that collapsed was about 200 feet by 100 feet. So really big covered arena with, steel beams because there's no supports inside the arena. So it's what's called a free span roof, completely open because it's Louisiana. You don't want any walls so the breezes come through. And that completely collapsed. So that'll be like $50,000 or so to like clean up and then rebuild. Of course, insurance will cover some of that. And then there was another place. I don't know them, but I heard of their story. They knew that their buildings were at risk because their buildings were old chicken houses that they had converted to barns. So horses were stalled in these buildings that used to be chicken houses, and the stall panels they knew would not hold up the roof if it collapsed. So they moved all those horses out. The only horses they left in the stalls had stall walls made of heavy-duty fence panels, and then they fed the horses hay on the ground so that if the roof did collapse onto the stalls, the horses' heads would be down. So yes, they would spook, but their heads would be down to begin with so they wouldn't be injured. And it did happen. The roofs collapsed. The actual chicken houses themselves collapsed all the way to the ground, but then the ones over the heavy-duty fence panels, the horses just had the roof like directly over their heads, and none of them were hurt, but they were stuck in their stalls. The people that owned the place were still able to, feed and care for them. They couldn't get them out immediately. They had to figure out a way to safely access it so the horses could get out of those stalls. So certainly keep those people in your thoughts and prayers. Going on a week now without any water. So, and then our excitement here on Saturday with Loudmouth was that it was time to do a beak and nail trim on Hopper. Now, if you forget, this is what Hopper looks like. And normally parrots do not need their beak trimmed. They wear it down themselves just in the course of chewing on toys, destroying toys. I mean, that's what they do. You buy toys just so they can destroy it and have enrichment and keep their beak in check. But a few years ago when Hopper was fat and had fatty liver disease, it causes the beak to grow faster than they can wear it down. So I have needed to get Hopper's beak trimmed for years now. Even though he's healthier now, his beak it's not growing as fast, but it's still growing faster than he can keep it into shape. We used to take him to the vet, but it's very stressful for him to be caught, put in his travel carrier, taken to the vet, handled by people he doesn't know in a strange place. So eventually we learned how to do it ourselves. Or I learned how to do it with my husband's assistance to hold Hopper because unlike most birds, once you put him in a towel, Hopper does not stop fighting. He will keep yelling and keep flailing, trying to escape, trying to bite you, holding onto your fingers, trying to move his wings and escape. So it's a two-person job to trim him. But we try to get it done as quickly as possible to lower the amount of stress that he has. It makes me stressful because I know it's stressful for him, which makes me give off this nervous energy, and he knows exactly what is about to happen. That the way that I'm asking him to step up this time is different. It's not, hey, you're going to the play stand, or hey, we're going to go train, or let's go do something fun. He knows it's about trimming time. So I had him on my arm. I was trying to figure out how I was going to grab him, and he started flailing around and trying to escape me. Because, again, he's fully flighted, and he made his way from my arm up to my shoulder, facing that way. I didn't know it, but in that short time that he was fighting to get away, he broke a blood feather. Now, here is a fully grown feather that was molted out naturally. This is a wingtip primary, so is the largest feather that he grows. Let's see, here's a pen in comparison. And if you've read any period pieces or watched any period movies, you know that back in the day they used feathers to write with because the shaft is hollow. Okay, it's just keratin that's completely hollow because birds need to be lightweight. So when the feather is fully grown, the shaft is hollow. When the feather is growing, the shaft is full of blood. Okay, so it's like a little vein that goes in there and pumps blood into the feather to help it grow. And so this is the same feather, same position on his wings. They came out of this one is several years old. This is what broke. It's a Saturday. So as a feather is growing, it's covered in another keratin sheath, and as it grows a little like farther, then you can start to peel off the keratin sheath. And the bird usually does this himself. But on feathers he cannot reach, like the ones on his head, I do that for him. But I have to wait until the feather is ready. If the feather, like if you've seen a baby bird that looks like it's a porcupine because it's got all these feathers growing, those are not ready to be preened. They get to a certain point and you can just pinch with your fingernails, pinch off the little tip, and then you wait for it to grow more. And the bird will tell you if you're trying to preen a feather that's not ready yet, because it's tender, it hurts. It's like if you were trying to pick at a hangnail that was rather sore. You're going to be like, ow, don't do that. And that's what the bird does. So you have this keratin sheath, and this part of the feather is fully grown. It's got dried blood on it right now, so it looks like it's not all there, but it is. So you can kind of see the pieces are there. They're just all matted with blood right now. So this feather still had a ways to go with it being this short. So this is, you can see it's about the same size there if it didn't have the dried blood on it. So the reason this broke is because it didn't have any support. Normally when a bird molts out its primaries, it'll have like a full wing. I could even show it here on this pin. So you have a full wing of feathers, and it'll molt out one on each side symmetrically. And then the remaining feathers support that blood feather as it grows in, as the replacement grows in. So it's not just one feather out on its own. So they grow in, they overlap, and it can support it. Just like if you broke a finger and they buddy tape it together. Well, this feather didn't have buddies next to it on either side to support it. It was by itself in the way that he had molted his feathers. And just going up my arm to my shoulder, he put enough pressure on this that it cracked. There's a little crack in the keratin sheath right there. So he was bleeding all over the place. I didn't know it when he was up here, but I got him down onto the floor, and I had blood all over my hands. I thought, okay, it's probably a feather. Maybe he busted a toenail too, because his nails are so sharp and long. We got him restrained, got him in the towel. Sure enough, the first place I looked, this feather was broken. So what you do with a broken blood feather, with this shaft full of blood, if it remains in the bird, it will act like a straw under suction. The bird will completely bleed out if this feather had remained, especially with it being a primary and the sheath being so big. This sheath is about 4 millimeters wide, or about 5/16 of an inch, and the follicle that it comes out of from his wingtip is big enough for a BB, if you think about it that way. So, or about, let's see, yeah, just a little bit smaller than the open end of an ink pen. So you have to pull this, otherwise the bird will bleed to death. And so my husband is restraining the bird, and I have hemostats. These are like really big tweezers. So what you do is you're trying to stay calm, but of course my hands are shaking at this point. You grip the shaft close to the follicle with the hemostats, and then you provide counter traction with your finger on the wingtip, because you don't want to just pull on his wing, just by itself. So I'm pulling against my own hand, and I steadily pull this out of the follicle. It hurts. He yells. He tries to move his wing, but you got to get it done. And like I said, the follicle is about the size of a BB. Theoretically, they should stop bleeding because you have removed the sheath that has the suction on it. But because this is so big, and this is the third time now that I've had to pull a wingtip primary, he didn't stop bleeding. It didn't start bleeding right away, but like I tucked his wing back in, I trimmed his nails on one foot, then went back to look at his foot, or look at his wing, and it's bleeding. So I use Quick Stop powder along with clotazole, which is a liquid blood stop. Smear it on that follicle, try to get it to stop. Trim the other foot, go back to the wing, it's still bleeding. Treat it again, try to hold some pressure on it. Put it back away in the towel, and then trim his beak. And then go back to the wing, it was still bleeding. Treat it a third time. Try to stop the bleeding. Hold the wing while your bird is like panting and just wants to be let loose. He finally stopped bleeding and we let him loose and he cooled off. And once he caught his breath, he decided the whole rest of the day he was going to be super excited and yelling his fool head off, destroying some of his toys like a basket, and just crazy. Like normally he's not a loud bird, but Saturday he was definitely a loud bird. Luckily he was too amped up to bother his wing, because the last time, about a year ago, when he broke a blood feather and my husband was gone and I had to keep calling the neighbor over to help me, we had to catch him 2 more times because he kept fidgeting with that wingtip and losing the clot and starting bleeding again. But luckily he left it alone until like Saturday night. And now I haven't asked him to fly since then, and I haven't given him a bath yet because I don't want to wash off any of that clotazole and Quick Stop yet, even though he is irritated with it on the surrounding feathers. So he has picked at and tried to pull a few of the surrounding feathers. But I will give him a bath tomorrow to kind of clean him up. His feathers are the rest of his feathers are kind of ruffled from being in the towel, but he is okay. So, quick Air Force story. I've got a few minutes. I didn't talk about it, but back November timeframe, when the wing here got the tasking for the Super Bowl flyover, at the same time they got the tasking for the Rose Bowl flyover. Rose Bowl is almost always held in Pasadena, California on New Year's Day. But come December 19th, the COVID rates in California were extremely high. Hospitals were full. So the decision was made that the Rose Bowl would be held without any spectators. Well, then that was shortly followed by the decision to move the Rose Bowl from the special stadium in Pasadena that has no roof, it's an open air arena, to the AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, just outside of Dallas, Fort Worth, which does have a roof, but the roof also opens. But apparently they decided they weren't going to have the roof open. So the flyover that they tasked with the B-52s to do for the Rose Bowl was no longer going to happen. And they decided this on December 19th for a 1 January flyover. Well, I showed you the Super Bowl patch that my husband wore, because they wear these morale patches on their flight suit on their shoulder. So you have name tag and career field badge. You have their major command they belong to. And then they normally wear like a unit patch or a morale patch on this shoulder. The Rose Bowl patch had already been in manufacture. So even though the flyover was canceled, we have the patch. So really cool patch for a flyover that never happened. And my husband was actually supposed to be on that. That's why he has the patch. They held on to the patches for a while before deciding to give them out, because they're like, what do we do with these? It didn't happen. So I brought a couple other morale patches to show you. This is the guy from Fallout, the video game, with Peace the Old-Fashioned Way. Flight level 500 club, so that's 50,000 feet. This is for one of the FTUs, the field training units for the B-52 down at Barksdale. Teddy's Buff Riders, because Buff is the nickname for the B-52. So there's Teddy Roosevelt. I have told you stories about the 2 B-52s that came out of the boneyard and have been brought back into mission ready status. One of them is Ghost Rider. So out of the boneyard, arise, Ghost Rider flies again. And that's the tail number 61007. Some other cool patches. The Nuclear Decision Handbook. That's what the actual front cover looks like. That's what I do. I drink and I fly things. Little Tyrion Lannister. When he went to tech school, his class motto was, "It hurts so good." Hurts as in electronics. The Michigan State ROTC patch. And then when he worked at the Airborne Command Post at Offutt, that's their unit patch. And then there's here's one for 500 hours for the Abin cap. And then here's one for 100 plus missions. And I told you that he's flown several very long missions. So they made one for 24 plus hours flying in the B-52 around the world. So it's just cool little things. Since I didn't have much time for a full Air Force story this week. But I hope everybody has a good stitching week, and we'll see you later, guys. Bye.